So we begin with the third meeting of the AI General Assembly. The President had called for an adjournment of the session yesterday. The adjournment has been revoked. I would say the adjournment is now null and void because now we have come for the session. Let us have the attendance of the session. Honorable President will name each of the delegates in the particular order as they are available, and then we will register them in the same. So I would request the President to do so, but yes, so the session consultants are prepared. Therefore, I would request the President to proceed there with. Yes.
Sure. Thank you, Abhi. Good morning, delegates. And let's start the session with the attendance. So the first name on my screen starts with Dave.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yes. So is it present or present? Present voting or present? Yeah.
Present and voting.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Kashwi.
Okay.
Yes, present and voting.
Okay. So I need to confirm from Mr. Goffey. It is present and voting, right?
Yes, present and voting.
Thank you.
Done. Thank you.
Nagbhushan.
Present for voting, sir.
Prakash.
Okay. Thank you.
Present and voting, sir.
Samar.
Okay.
Present and voting. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Shruti.
Good morning, sir. It's present and voting.
Swatilina.
Good morning, sir. It's present in voting.
And finally, I have Tayen.
All is present.
Great. Okay. Let me confirm. Okay, nobody's left. Perfect. Everybody has been voted. Everybody has voted for their attendance. Nearly everybody, I think, all of you have voted present and voting, which means you cannot avoid any procedural voting per se. So now let's go ahead with this. Now, for every speech that you give as per the agenda is concerned or the sub-agenda is concerned, you have to first table a motion to choose an agenda. Now we have actually 3 agendas left to discuss. We can repeat a discussion of agenda 1, that is also within the mandate of the AIGA. However, we can do that afterwards, that is under recommendation. So let us do it in this way. So, with general understanding, you will be granted 5 minutes from now, and you would be speaking in the sessions. So here's the timer. First of all, we need to, obviously every delegate will speak because we have changed the rules. Earlier it was 30 minutes. Okay, so Prantik is also coming in, no issues. Okay, noted. So let's do it. Now, every delegate has to speak for 5 minutes, but we need to first decide the agenda which we are discussing, and second, once we decide the agenda, we need to go ahead with the sub-agenda. So I would be sharing the cheat sheet since it is considerably necessary herein. And once I share that, I'll do. Okay, so a quick question to all. Did you read that report? Like, did you get any time to read that report we got through? Did you like it?
Yes, it was very nice.
Great. I'm sharing the document again. So I'll explain that. Just give me 1 minute. It is undoubtedly true that yesterday's session also went well. So I can't share it on the screen, unfortunately, due to some reasons, perhaps. Or maybe I can. Yes, I can. So, yes, the document is with me now. Amazing. It's just opening. Once it opens, I'm just going to share it with you. Yes, the document is with me. So now I can show it to you. You just need to decide how will you approach this. That's it. So if you can see this diagram, now we are for agenda 3 because agenda 2 actually, not agenda 3. We still have 2 days left. Agenda 2, the legal and political repercussions of privatization of autonomous and augmented systems in space and conflict activities. This is agenda 2. You have the other 2 agendas as well. You can shuffle the order and you can discuss any of them as you wish to. Therefore, a delegate has to table a motion to discuss one of the agendas. Therefore, I would request one of the delegates to table a motion to discuss one of the agendas. Please table the motion.
Okay, motion to move to the agenda 2.
Great. The motion is accepted for voting. Those who are in favor of the same, please vote aye. Those who are not in favor, please vote noes. Please do it on Google Meet chat. Thank you. 2 is to 0, 3 is to 0, 4 is to 0, 5 is to 0, 6 is to 0, 7 is to 0, 8 is to 0, 9 is to 0, 9 is to 0. Okay. It's already 9 is to 0. Those who have voted still present and voting, I'll enumerate who. Okay, so I need to confirm this. So Prantik, good morning. Should we consider you as present and voting? Just asking because you have voted.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Done. Yes. Time, you have not voted. What is your view? Would you like to vote yes or no? Because you have to vote for procedural considerations. Therefore, please vote yes or no for this agenda. It simply means that yes. Okay, aye. Then who has not voted? Let me confirm. Because this is a crucial thing. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Nabhushan is in. Yeah. So, Samar, you have voted. If you can confirm. No, yes, you have voted. Yes. Okay, done. I think everybody has voted in that sense. So, yes, I think it is either 9 is to 0 or 10 is to 0. And the motion successfully passes. We are now discussing agenda 2. I will repeat what is agenda 2 for you. Agenda 2 is as follows. The legal and political repercussions of privatization of autonomous and augmented systems in space and conflict activities. These are the 5 different sub-agendas that the executive board and the session consultants had discussed. And these are suggestive. You can go even beyond them. Okay. Now I will enumerate each of them to you, and then it is up to you delegates to decide which to discuss first. I suggest all the 5 must be discussed. You have 5 hours from now. So you can manage that yourself. It is up to you. But I humbly suggest everything must be discussed because that's how it works. Otherwise, obviously, if any motion is not passed, then you can go for your position statements, and we can publish it separately as a position statement. Also, if today anybody wishes to propose any draft resolutions, you can propose a draft resolution. Okay. Also, from today onwards, whenever any speech happens for 5 minutes, interjections will be allowed. Thank you. So if you see the diagram quite clearly, this is what you have to discuss. So delegates, what do you think about this? Among the 5, which you should start with? Please tell me. It is up to you to decide. Not up to me. That's
Governance
my
and auditing considerations over autonomous systems in space tech.
Okay, Swatilina, you can't hear anything. Is it? I'm audible again. Hello. Okay, if there is audibility issue, I have a simple recommendation. Just join back. Okay, just rejoin. It will help you. Just one minute. Yes, Dev, I'm taking your question into consideration. Yes, that's it. It happens. Network issues a lot of time. Yeah, governance and auditing considerations of autonomous systems in space tech. This is your request. Anybody else want to start with? Your second, third, fourth, and fifth agendas. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it's okay to me.
Okay. Okay then. So Dave, please table the motion for discussing the sub agenda.
Okay, so first I need to come up with an opening statement, right?
Yes, you will be the first speaker, and but you need to first table the motion. Please table the motion so that we vote it first, and then we go ahead. Because if the motion is not accepted, then it will go as
Okay,
a position statement. That's the thing.
okay. So am I audible?
Perfectly audible. Please go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, good morning. The agenda for today is the legal and political repercussions of privatization of autonomous and augmented systems in space and conflict activities. And the first agenda for today, the sub agenda that I would like to table is the governance and auditing considerations over autonomous systems in space tech. So we could here describe the nature of the space environment which makes autonomous space systems a desirable application. Thereby, we could describe the various types of space activities in the near Earth and deep space missions. And we could also cite examples of autonomous systems which could be deployed in the space. And we could also outline the current state of the art intersection between trusted autonomous systems, and then we could also get into the intricate details of the variety of possible future trusted autonomous space scenarios that are present, because I believe space law is something which can be deemed to regarded as the law which governs the activities of the states, and it is imperative to understand how the intelligent and autonomous systems have the potential to play a key role in military operations, and not only military operations but intelligent robotic technologies and algorithms will allow a lot of other fields and aspects to flood their autonomous systems and to overwhelm their software based technologies. Thank you.
The motion is accepted for the purpose of voting. I would now request the delegates to vote ayes if they support the motion on the Google Meet chat, noes if they wish to reject it. Thank you. Please vote it. All the delegates have to vote. 2 is to 0, 3 is to 0, 4 is to 0, 5 is to 0, 6 is to 0, 7 is to 0, 8 is to 0. Okay. There are still some delegates who still have not voted yet. Please vote. Okay, okay, okay. Uh, maybe they need to. Maybe they need to look at stuff like this. Yes. Let me count the votes. Okay, rest of the people, please vote. You have not voted yet. Um, so I can check who has not voted. It is requested that you do. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8. Um, okay. Okay, nearly everybody has voted in that sense. Swatilina is not available because of abrupt network issues. She's trying to join, but she's not able to listen and all that. Okay, anyways. So the motion successfully passes 8 is to none, and now we are discussing the sub-agenda. I repeat the sub-agenda. The sub-agenda is as follows: governance and auditing considerations for autonomous systems in space tech. Let's go ahead with the first speaker of this formal debate. Mr. Dev, you have 5 minutes from now on. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Am I audible? Am I clearly audible?
Yes.
Okay, okay, I'll begin. So, space law is something which can be deemed to be regarded as the law which governs the activities of the various states in the outer space. Now, it can be deemed to be regarded as a piece of legislation which governs and determines the rights and duties of individuals resulting from all activities which are carried out by individuals or organizations in a particular country in the outer space and within it, and to do so in the interest of mankind as a whole, to offer protection to life, terrestrial and non terrestrial, wherever it may exist. Now, the space environment to begin with is a harsh and remote, a natural domain for autonomous systems. Beyond the protection of the Earth's atmosphere, man made objects operating in space do so surrounded by the extremes of temperature, high energy radiation, and near vacuum, but not complete vacuum. For example, in the low Earth orbit, dissociating and ionizing radiation results in rarefied monoatomic atoms and ions, for example, oxygen and hydrogen, that interact negatively with satellites. Now, space weather disturbances to the near Earth space environment, which result from solar activity, add significantly to the complexity of the space environment and poses additional threats to the space-based and ground-based activity. Space activity now can be considered in terms of either in orbit activity near the Earth or in the deep space missions, including planetary exploration. Robotics and autonomy play a role in each. Now, the near Earth region can be divided into the typical orbit regions occupied by satellites, low Earth orbit, that is the LEO, extending from a few hundred kilometers to 2,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface, and geosynchronous orbit, that is GEO, approximately 36,000 kilometers above Earth, where satellites orbit the Earth at the same rate that the Earth rotates beneath them, and the median Earth orbit (MEO). So all of these aspects need to be taken into consideration when it comes to remote sensing missions such as environmental monitoring, maritime observations, forestry, crop surveying, and the more. Now, space science spacecraft is flown from a range of Earth orbits depending on the particular science objectives and implementation of the experiments and instrumentation. Considerable effort is essential and needs to be put in, which needs to be and which is currently being expended by the US, the Europe, China, India, and towards renewed and deep space flight, and in particular towards manned mission to the Mars and eventually the colonization of Mars. In the shorter term, planetary rovers placed for the moon, that is by which is placed by China, India, and Japan, and Mars, and how NASA and the ESA is developing and have deployed. Now, most spacecraft operations are automated insofar as control functions and routines are uploaded via telecommunication for immediate execution or more typically at predefined times and strict order sequences. Now, for instance, all remote sensing satellites automatically acquire images at predefined geographic locations and then uh, downlink them to the Earth while maintaining correct attitude with onboard sensors and resolution wheels. Now, in orbit robotic capabilities such as the uh, remote manipulator arms are controlled by astronauts. However, few astronomous space systems where the system makes decisions in order to achieve high level goals without human intervention still exist, and they have been growing. Space robotics and autonomous systems will play a major role in shaping the mankind in the coming years and shaping its ability to explore and operate in the space by providing greater and beyond human space flight limitations in the harsh environment of the space and by providing greater operational handling which could extend to astronautic capabilities. Now, space is currently undergoing transformation. However, due to the miniaturization of electronics and the increased ease and reduced cost of access to space for both government, commercial, and research education players, autonomous systems can be included in order to reduce human workloads by managing routine activities requiring constant monitoring over long periods of time. Now, autonomous systems can improve human and system safety by reducing human cognitive needs in complex situations and can enable the deployment and operation of multiple space assets without a significant increase in the level of ground support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. You had 25 or 24 seconds left. Let's go ahead with the next speaker. Mr. Goffey, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So regarding this part of the agenda, I just want to stress the fact that space is, as you know, becoming more and more congested, and obviously it is one of the new place of struggle between great nation and countries like the US or the European Union, obviously, and some other countries that are really interested in this particular part of this world, if I may include the space in the world. The big question here is that by trying to access space, we are violating what we call the global common. Global common being something that belongs to humanity, to the whole humankind. This is like ocean, something that we have to protect. And we have to make sure, obviously, that this global common, as well as others, are not invaded by private companies that would use it in a way that is not desirable for humanity or that could jeopardize the survival of humanity at some point. Using tech in space poses a lot of ethical issues and legal issues. The first one is that we don't really have kind of a constraining framework to avoid space being used for purposes such as military purposes like a conflict or things like that. So we really have to work, and I think it is the responsibility of the international system to create or to build a set of rules and safeguards that will make sure that space will not be used to wage wars or to harm humanity. Obviously, it's something that is not easy. Lots of discussion have been going on at the United Nations and in other places to set such a framework, but stakes are so high that it's really difficult to find a compromise. But the point is that obviously, space being a global common, once again, it is really critical to make sure that it will not fall into the hands of private companies, and that it will not be congested by autonomous systems that will have an impact that is not desirable for humanity. So we have to make sure that access to space will be limited. That's not an easy task, obviously. That it will be monitored by the international community in some ways, and that a strong regime of sanctions will be set as well, along with these rules. And once again, I think it is our responsibility to make sure that people are aware of that. So it's not only about setting rules or setting safeguards, it's also about informing people, educating people to the fact that this kind of global commons must remain a global common. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goff. You had 1 minute 56 seconds left. The next speaker, following Mr. Goff, is Kashvi Shetty. Kashvi, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes. Before that, can I ask a point of information to Mr. Goffey, if that's fine? Yeah. So
Yes, and actually, yes, you can do it. And also, following this, any point of information can also be asked to them because we did not do that, unfortunately. So sorry for that. Yes, go ahead, please.
yeah. So you said that your point of access to space be limited. I get the point that you said no, it should be for the private invasion should be like regulated for global common. But right now, with how people are saying the costs have been reduced, it's because of private players and public players coming together. So how then do you think your point of access to space be limited? Like how do you propose that?
Oh, I do think that it must be only through legal instruments that should be developed and that should be clearly established. The point is that, as usual, and I don't want to criticize the UN, but there are some flaws in the UN system, and as long as you have countries like the US or Russia and China that are making decisions for all of us in all the world, that's a big issue. But I think that a legal binding instrument would be the only way to make sure that this access to space would be limited. It can sound a little bit idealistic, but I don't see any other way to make sure that space will not be privatized.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I'll start with mine then.
Just give us a minute. So, is there any other point of information to Mr. Dev? Because we could not take that. That's why. Okay. So there's no point of information. If it is required, we can do it. So, Kashvi, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes. So, or like first, let's discuss about what is autonomous systems, the space, like what is autonomous systems and what does our future see with these autonomous systems being in space. Space is definitely something that is space law is something that is new, that is coming up, and rules and regulations have been in the framework, but still there are various loopholes. But firstly, autonomous systems are something that allow the human beings to, go beyond their limitations. There are having these systems will allow the humans to, go into more research, develop more things, and this is something that inevitable and will be required in the future. What is a word that is used a lot with autonomous systems is trust. So autonomous systems definitely is something that which is taking over, that something that humans without, it can function without humans. But that's not completely true, that even with autonomous systems a major role playing is of the human touch or the human development. So there can be two ways of regulating these autonomous systems. Firstly is in the development stage, and secondly, if something was to happen like in conflict basis, how that would be regulated. The talking about the precautionary approach becomes much more important, because these autonomous systems have been handling critical structures like military, or even, working for public good. Like a lot of autonomous structures are something that have oversight data over the earth's activities, and they predict things like agricultural growth or any forecasts for any kind of droughts or floods. So these are something that the humans really depend on. And secondly, if such autonomous systems are to be used in future for, predicting something like a collision, that or something that is done right now by a crude staff, then this would require much more higher levels of safety and compliance for autonomous systems to do. So a basic approach that is followed by them is a verification and validation approach that employs runtime analysis and model checking, software designs, architectures, and verification tasks. The problem that lies in this structure is that there is definitely an assessment based structure where, the engineers and the expert panels have to give their opinions. An important part that should be taken care in these verification and validation procedures is, now that we are seeing that private entities are coming into the space structure, is transparency and accountability. So if reports based on these verification processes have to be there, they have to consider these expert opinions, and they have to be well researched and well presented, so that we know that these autonomous systems are something that have been developed on a method that is reliable. And secondly, also, an important thing that must be kept in mind is the algorithms of these autonomous systems. So a lot has been said about the model based software. It's basically that autonomous system develops and changes according to and responds to according to global goals, and self models itself accordingly. This is not something new. It has been used far back to 1996, where the Livingstone diagnostic engine was aboard. So the problem with this, it is not fully formed. Like still there are, one cannot rely on this completely. So what can one rely on? One, it has been like, after the research as well, only a trial and tested approach is something that can account for the accountability, can, accountability of these systems. So building an infrastructure where, there's a flight heritage, where we know that these are the practices that have been done, the approaches that have been taken, is very important. And therefore this can only happen when there is a very coordinated approach among the states do come together, encourage, and, develop an understanding on developing these technologies, meeting the scientific goals. Because at the end of the day, these autonomous systems are not only something that is going to cater to benefits of particular states or entities, but also the larger public good and the larger greater good. So that's what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashmi. You had 16 seconds left approximately. Let's go ahead with Mr. Prakhar. Mr. Prakhar, you have 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, before Mr. Prakhar speaks, is there any point of information for Kashmi's remarks? Okay, so if there is no point of information, let us go ahead with Prantik. I think Mr. Prakhar will join due to network issues. Uh, Prantik, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So, as we all know, like in the recent past, we have seen a major technological advancement in space tech, and even the private players are coming up, and they are kind of working hand in hand with the government. So, so like the when you're privatizing something, so there's the issue of there's a responsibility of of the government on the international body to oversee those players too. And even in the past decade, they have the space weaponization thing has also come up, and even US has also has sanctioned their space force. So until there's a proper governance to it, and there's a checking mechanism and mechanism which will actually oversee all the activities or activities. So it will be kind of a very problematic if these things are not done according to the laws and regulations which are being put up by the international bodies. So and this when we were talking about this privatization thing, this privatization and use of autonomous or semi-autonomous weapons has posed new challenges for international humanitarian law. To be frank. So privatization and use of autonomous or semi-autonomous weapons make the decision-making fragment and diffuse, thereby obscuring the individual accountability. So accordingly, it will be a core challenge for law and governance in this century to evolve new legal regime and new liability, oversight and accountability mechanisms to respond to the radically changing face of armed conflict. So the main problem is not only the lack of human agent, but also the autonomy or even partial autonomy in the decision making process. So thereby kind of making it hard to hold any one person or group of individuals responsible. So further engaging contractors, further if we engage contractors and further it will further diffuses the decision making process. So for example, like with many remotely operated weapon systems such as drones, contractors are involved in supplying intelligence that leads to target selection as well as occasionally calling in targets from the ground. So intelligence gathering plays a key role in determining the target decision itself. A private or non-state actor contractor discombobulates the legal position further, and the existing legal doctrine is not equipped to cope with criminal responsibility in the case of automated and outsourced weapon systems. So when we're doing this governance and the auditing thing particularly, so we have to see all these aspects, and we have to check whether these are actually will benefit the society as a whole. Because look, if we because as we know, because of human uh, like humans hello hello hello
Yes, it's perfectly audible. Yes, Prantik. Yes.
yes, I guess there was some network issue between. Yep. So because in the past, because of this human negligence and all, so we have seen that there has been an accumulation of space debris, and quite predictable that those space debris might cause further space garbage, and it may lead to a space kind of a large space junk. So those things also need to be governed, and we have to opt for renewable resources and those will also come into the can come into the governance and the auditing consideration of autonomous system. So like what my point is right now is, so like the governance and the auditing aspect should be broad enough to cover all the probable aspects which can which can actually lead to which can actually lead to harm to the whole harm to the whole humanity and harm to the whole humanity. And we have to like further inculcate those ideas and come up with some good framework and guidelines, so that there's no there is no ill governance in the space. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Prantik. Um, any points of information will be addressed. If there are any points of information, please go ahead to Prantik. Thank you. Okay, does anybody wish to have a point of information? No? Okay, no issues. Let's go ahead then. Uh, we have Mr. Prakhar back. So, Mr. Prakhar, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Hello. Yeah.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good
Someone will
morning.
come to you. Will come to you. Yes.
Yeah, sure. So good morning, everyone. As Dev has already explained about different domains of space tech, and Mr. Emmanuel Goffey has explained and taken his discussion started from global common. So I would like to delve more into this global common. So, privatization of common is a real tragedy, actually. It started with land, water, and genetic codes, and we are moving towards abstract things like rights, privacy, and security. Moreover, about the atmosphere, about the space, everything. Private players are being introduced in every sectors, which are the common rights of humanity. And as Kashi has already raised the issue that uh, if private players are coming, the things are becoming more feasible, more viable. So to address this issue, actually, we are already seeing that SpaceX is doing great and launching the satellites at a much cheaper rate, and Jeff Bezos Blue Origin is also doing is expected to do great. So these big companies are coming in the race to acquire the space and to spread its businesses. So therefore it becomes even more important to govern and audit the autonomous systems in space technology, because earlier the space was very open and there were very few players there. But now the space is being overcrowded. There are chances of accidents. There are many. Earlier, big satellites were launched, but these days, very mini and micro bots are being sent, which are overcrowding this space. The Outer Space Treaty regulates the space, but then it needs to improve and govern the things. Recently in India destroyed its satellite in the space, and there was a global heated discussion, and countries were turning against India, even those countries who in past had taken actions which were much more detrimental. So broadly, we have two examples at a global scale through which we can think of governing the space technology. For example, uh, Antarctica can be a positive example where the global community at large has come to the conclusion that let's manage this through peaceful purposes and for scientific investigations. And similarly, the space can be managed and governed on the same similar principle. However, the stake in space is much higher than the stakes in Antarctica. So there will be much more competition, uh, much more investments, and much more liabilities in space. We have another example which can be which can be a controversial one, like UN clause. uh, about the law of seas. USA has not joined it. The reason being, US says that the Democrats who were supporting to join this treaty had the argument that if we need to control China, we need to be there and we need to regulate the whole world so that the common, that is oceans, may be free for the whole humankind. But then the Republicans had the view that anyhow, China is not going to listen, even if we are there or we are not there, even if the uh, tribunals passes any verdict against China, they are not going to listen. So these are the concerns which are already present, and the conflicts which we are already seeing at various examples across the globe, related to various other common resources. And similar thing is going to happen with respect to space, and therefore it becomes even more important to regulate it for the larger human good. And maybe we can have some space justice board or some special wing of United Nations where we can one can collectively form the opinion. And maybe we can go about in a three broader ways. The first one might be that let the present system continue because it is more or less a decent system. The another way could be open it more for the space business, for the space business where private players have more important role. And the third might be many nations have their own space governance system and auditing system. So maybe we can collect the common points of all the nations and form together, harmonize all space law which can govern the whole space at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prakhar. First of all, point of information is awaited from any delegate, and if the president wishes to ask any question, yes, he can. Before that, as a session consultant, I will exercise my right to question. Uh, so you have actually mentioned about space law and US's unwillingness to join the UN clause, which is the law of the seas, the treaties of the law of the seas. The question that we have as the executive board, I would say as a session consultant, I would have is this. Can you seek a particular planning of legal analogy? Because there are already 5 agreements on space law. There are certain national agreements and initiatives already, from the rescue agreement to the outer space treaty. So if we take the Indian perspective and the Asiatic perspective, because we will take Middle East also in that sense, UAE, then how would you like to deal with it in the sense, because one aspect is that yes, we need some legal analogies because space commons will be an issue, and space privatization and commercialization is possible. However, it has a lot of economic stakes at the same time. It's very costly. So, how would you like to take that into consideration? What's your view?
May you please explain once again what you're trying to ask? May you please once again?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
My simple question is this. There are higher economic stakes for space commercialization and privatization. It's very costly to do space commercialization due to the simple and very predicated reason that it costs billions, or I would say trillions of dollars. Okay. Example is SpaceX, which is Elon Musk, and one example is also Amazon, which is Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is trying to do his projects. Musk is also trying to do his projects. For bringing people into it, it's very costly. So the question is, yes, there are very high level economic costs to do it. Maybe economic prosperity after the COVID-19 pandemic can be achieved in the coming 10 years. So we can hope for this. And maybe some cost benefit analysis can be done. So the first aspect of this question is how to manage this economic aspect in this. Okay. Second, what kind of legal analogy can be built up? Because if we bring legal analogy on space privatization and space publicization also, then how can we deal with it? Just your suggestions. Thank you.
Um, I would like to draw an analogy from the countries where China is making investments. The countries don't have the resources to build the infrastructure or to explore the natural resources, and these are many African countries and many Asian countries as well. So, as you're talking about the huge investment required in space to explore it, and these private companies are doing this, which might not be that feasible for the other nations. So it would be useful for the humanity as at large. But then see what China is doing. It is making huge investments, but then. But the long-term issue is that they are bound to the decisions of China. It is a way of colonization. So a similar thing might happen in the space arena as well. So just because they are economically difficult to invest, and therefore the private companies are there, so this should not be consideration. Those needs to be regulated, and that's the analogy, and similarly, this can be applicable in any other field as well.
Thank you very much. Summer, you have 5 minutes now.
Yes.
But before
Am I?
that, does
Yes.
anybody just give me one? Is there any point of information to what Mr. Becker said? Like for 5 minutes, actually, his speech, to be very honest. Any point of information, guys? Anybody wishes to do? Members, please. Okay, Summer, go ahead. 5 minutes.
Yes. Am I audible? Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So actually, I agree with Mr. Prakash's point that space should not be privatized. It should be used for a global common and for the scientific purposes. So currently, we have like 5 treaties in the space. That is Outer Space Treaty, Rescue Agreements, Liability Convention, the Registration Convention, and a Moon Agreement. Now, as we seen recently, that NASA is collaborating with SpaceX for the space traveling and everything. So we have to understand, like, what are the allowances that they have passed to get into the governing, to collaborate with the government. Also, SpaceX is also discussing about the space tourism, which is a privatized industry in itself altogether. So now the issue is, if space tourism starts, so what will be the issues which we are going to face? Also, not only the privatized industry, Elon Musk also had an agreement with Tom Cruise regarding a movie in which has to be shooted in the space. So not only, so there are different industries which are also entering into the space arena as well. So we have to understand how the government will regulate this altogether. Apart from this, previously there wasn't, like Mr. Prakash has said, that there are space debris in the space where like different nations launched various satellites in the space, which actually like congested the satellites altogether. What if we consider a hypothetical situation where the space became privatized, where there are private market leaders who are launching their private space shuttles into the space? Now, due to some technical fault, the satellite or the space shuttle blasted off and it falls into other nation. So the issue is, which state would have been held responsible? Whether the state would be held responsible or the private company, because of course that private company is in the jurisdiction of that particular state. So the government has to look into the broader perspective, to what extent they will give intervention or space to the private industry in the space area, or it should strictly to be governmental. Well, actually, I think that to an extent that privatization has started in the space. The thing is, to what extent we should allow it. So this is my take on the issue or the agenda. Thank you. Can I speak like additionally?
Thank you so
Hello.
much, Samar. Any point of information to Samar's speech, if anybody does have?
Yeah, so I think Mr. Samar digressed a little from the sub agenda that we are focusing upon, and he spoke about the private ownership and the control issues that could be there. So, if he could elucidate a little on how autonomous systems in the space could be, an effective approach, and whether autonomous systems need to be developed.
Well, what I am suggesting is that they should allow the private industry in the market, but it should not give them like utmost authority to take decisions for the space. Like I don't have a like specific point towards it, but what I'm suggesting is that this like where government and private industry come together and they should work together rather than giving a further scenario to the private industries.
Okay, okay, I understood what you're trying to say. So
Right.
let's say, like in India, how ISRO is already established. However, ISRO
Yes.
is currently working at a shoestring budget. So you're saying that if private players enter and
Right.
work along with ISRO in India, I'm talking about the Indian aspect
Yes. Yes.
as
Yes.
of
Yes.
now. So if they work together, then it will become a much better industry because space law, there's
Yes.
no particular space legislation. There's no
Yes.
particular piece of legislation, solid piece of legislation which deals with space. So
Yes.
there needs to be a private entity along with a government entity regulating the space sector, right?
Right. Because
Okay,
see,
okay,
because sometimes the private players have better technology,
correct.
better equipment, which government does not have. So, in that sense, we should collaborate. So, for the betterment of the human needs, rather than just making it purely corporate structure. So, what I'm suggesting is they should work parallelly to each other, but while supporting the agendas, but should not give larger control to one of the authorities. That's what I'm
Okay,
suggesting.
okay, okay. Got it, got it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would now request Shruti to take 5 minutes and elaborate further. Shruti, you can begin with the remarks. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So, autonomous space system plays a very crucial role in the current and the future development of mission-defined machines that can survive in the space environment and perform exploration, assembly, construction, maintenance, and servicing tasks. But like if we first we get it, before getting on the topic, we need to understand. Like people are of the view that autonomous system is entirely artificial intelligence, but it's not completely, like it's not the case that autonomous system is completely artificial intelligence, but yes, autonomous system use artificial intelligence. So let's start with why we are talking about autonomous system and why we need that. So, autonomy is needed as it helps to deal with like many factors, like communication constraints helps in making time crucial decision, reduces system cost and improve performance. Take an example of SpaceX to understand this agenda. SpaceX Crew Dragon, for the first time since the space shuttle was retired, American rockets were launching from American soil to take the Americas into space. However, things couldn't have looked more different from inside. There were numerous changes made in the spacecraft. Gone was the sprawling dashboard of lights and switches and knobs that once dominated the space shuttle interior. All of it was replaced with a futuristic consoles of multiple large screens that cycle through a variety of display. Behind those screens, the vehicle is run by softwares that designed to get into the space and navigate the space station completely autonomously. Instead of calling for a hand on the control stick, navigation is now a series of predetermined inputs. The SpaceX astronauts have still be involved in decision making at critical junctures, but much of that function have moved out of their hands. Sounds interesting, but like software has never played a very a critical role in space flight. It has made it safer and more efficient, allowing a spacecraft to automatically adjust to the changing condition. And increased autonomy is practically essential to make some form of space flight even work. But with this all comes the challenges in making space tech more autonomous. Depending heavily on software and autonomous systems in spaceflight creates new opportunities for problem to arise. That's especially a concern for many of the industry's new contenders who aren't necessarily used to the kind of aggressive and comprehensive testing needed to remove the problem in software, and are still trying to strike a good balance between automatization and manual control. Like few errors in over 1 million line of code could spell a difference between mission success and a mission fail. An intelligent example for this could be the Boeing Starliner capsule, which failed to make it to the ISS because of the glitch in its internal timer. Later, it was even revealed that many other errors in the software were there that could not be caught before the launch, including one that could have led to the destruction of the spacecraft. And that was something that human crew could easily have overridden. It was just a view of the experts, the human pilots, that they could have overrid the glitch and ended up burning the Starliner's thrusters prematurely. Furthermore, airspace objects do not fly simple. Near Earth space is not a vacuum and has a non-uniform gravitational field. The latter is well understood, but the interaction that occurs between the space object and their local dynamic space environment, known as the astrodynamics, and non-negligible and integrate to produce a significant orbital. Space is becoming increasingly congested. The risk of in-orbit collision is growing and can ultimately limit our use of the space. Inactive satellites and collision are both the contributors to a vast artificial space population. So, like, if we look back, there has been hundred of success stories, and ahead we definitely have many opportunities. But even after decades of first autonomous system was launched, a proper governance is yet to be standardized. So after looking at the problems, there is a need for a proper policy and governance. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you are the last speaker, but before that, any point of information to Shruti? Anybody wishes to deal with, please?
Yes. So you said that there were, like, how there were errors in the autonomous system because of which the glitches happen. So these internal glitches do happen. So what do you think are the reason for such internal glitches to continue, and what could possibly be a solution to not like stop it, but at least audit it well, or like so it can be reduced?
I told in the speech also, and like I even read the interviews of many pilots that it was a software glitches, programming glitches maybe, due to which these problems are happening. So like obviously we cannot eradicate that problem completely, but we can work with the intervention of humans, I guess. Like one of the pilot, I don't remember that name, after that this after this spacecraft failure, he was of the thought that if human pilot were there, they could have control they could have like possibly predict the software glitches. It was his view. So I can go with him that due to this coding and software glitches, we can eradicate maybe with the help of human interventions.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So I will. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes,
Am I
yes. Please
audible?
go ahead. Please go ahead. Yes, yes, for all.
So, as we know, the space sector is evolving rapidly, with new public and private sectors are propelling it towards commercial launch and space tourism. Ever larger consultations that provide connectivity, ever more precise Earth observations, as well as partnership for the lunar exploration and beyond. There are some critical challenges for this space sector, such as the need for the governance framework, new forms of public collaborations and private collaborations with each others, and great understanding of sectors and socio-economic impact. So these new norms will support the development and launch of the space sustainability rating, as well as consider the future of space situational awareness to ensure sustainable growth in activity in Earth orbit. So this is what the challenges for the space sectors, which needs to be frameworks for the collaboration with public and private sectors for the greater cause to be in particular manner, so they can eradicate the problems of space laws. So coming to the space, coming to the autonomous systems, we have seen that it has been more than a decade since the first autonomous systems were launched into space. The operational autonomy is not yet a standard practice. So, what would enable the adoption of autonomy by more missions? So, to build an infrastructures and develop flight heritage, we will have to invest. So, Earth-based rovers, submarines, aircrafts, or other spacecraft analogs can serve and frequent to do serve as lower cost and lower risk validation platforms. Such developments activities should lead to several flights of small aircraft that incrementally advance capability as they add to the flight heritage and experience of the technology and the other teams also. Encouraging the development understanding will depend largely on technologists listening to those who might someday use their technologies. Unless we hear and address the concern of scientists and mission managers, we will not be able to explain how autonomous system can further scientific goals. If the autonomous system community can successfully do these things, we as a society stand to enter an exciting new period of human and robotic discovery in the AI. So this is my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naeem. You had 1 minute for 50 seconds left. I would like to request the president to give a statement, but before that, I would like to see if there is any point of information for Mr. Naeem's remarks. Is there any point of information? No. Mr. President, you can go ahead with your remarks on the agenda so far, the sub agenda discussed. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think we heard many good points, and one of the important thing is that there is surely a need for governance, and therefore it is critical. But the question here is, before we sort of go ahead and decide for the future, it's very important to also understand some ground rules which were already agreed upon and which are before us. So if I look at Articles 6, 7, and 8 of the Outer Space Treaty, which actually establishes the primary basis for national space legislations, uh, there is clearly a wider gap between the international requirements and how we see it in India. Given recently that India also has opened up the space uh, to private players, it is important to understand that how exactly the private players and ISRO will play hand in hand in order to take this forward. So, therefore, India, will require to formalize and define the institutional legal mechanism for all these activities. Yes, we have realized that the private sector participation is important in the space legislations, because it is also not a far fact that the funding which the governments used to have actually for space programs have reduced over a period of time, and therefore the need has arrived for private space enablers to come forward and take this sector. But it's also important that a national space legislation which can actually define all the activities of space need to be clearly defined, and there has to be a specific law for each of them, whether that means satellite investigation, navigation, remote sensing, satellite communications, and therefore the need of AI under any and all of these programs, which are very important for space. Therefore, primarily before getting into any other regulation, I think first specific laws for all of this is required as far as the private players are concerned. And then accordingly, I think it's important to also think of how do we, make forward the public-private partnership as far as uh, India's needs are concerned, and build basically after that an international consensus, because ultimately in the private space, starting from the investors, starting from the private venture funds, starting from the shareholders of those funds, actually who is exactly the stakeholder who's funding. Ultimately, therefore, you will find that it is no more going to be a sort of a national mission. There ought to be a international mission, given right from funding, operating, and launching will require an international collaboration, and therefore, the need is to establish a good domestic national space legislations, which ultimately helps our public-private partnership to move forward and forge good ties with our international friends to make this a success. Thank you.
Very well appreciated. So we have now gone past for Agenda 2.1. We have discussed and exhausted all the speakers for Agenda 2.1. Considering this, I'm going to share the document as a session consultant for the daily report, which we need to publish. This time we will fast track it and publish it by 7:30. I hope it gets done. So I'm sharing the same document with you. Just give us some time. We'll do it. Please just wait. Thank you. I will share the draft document again with you so that it is taken into consideration, and the reference of the same is existent so that it works well. In the draft resolution, not a draft resolution, but a draft report you have to work in. If anybody is interested to write a draft resolution and propose it, then you need to do it, no issues. However, it requires some research, so all the best for that as well. Just give us 1 minute. So this document will be 0110, or actually 0210 because it is now day 2, AIGA S1, session 1 to 2020. I think it is rep. I think so. So let me confirm. Yeah, 01 rep. So since it is day 2, it is the first report, it is the only report for now, so it is 1 rep. The document will be created and shared shortly. This is the document, if you can see. It's coming to you. So authors of the report, then you need to signify that, okay, fine, you're working on this. Then you need to be clear as to what you're working on this so that there's no confusion per se. Just 1 minute. Yes. So you have to work in accordingly. Okay, I'm sharing this document with you now. So you have to connect with Kshitij anyways, and then it will work out. The link has been copied and it will be shared to you now. Thank you. So, okay, so now the sub-agenda discussion has been exhausted. Now the question is this: are the delegates interested to go ahead with this and discuss it more? A question open to all. Okay, Mr. President, what do you think? We should go ahead, or we should still discuss this aspect? Like, okay, so one thing is, yes, yes.
In the interest of time, if we are able to discuss, I would suggest so. But if not, then we should go ahead, because there are other topics also which need equal time, and therefore it is important to
Yes, it is. It is actually 5 topics today, so I think we should.
Correct. So let's go ahead.
Okay. So these are your 5 issues. You have to make your pointers here only. It is now shared to you. You have to make changes accordingly. So all the best. Adoption of the sub-agenda. So which agenda will be sub-adopted? I have a question. The following sub-agendas are as follows. The first one has been exhausted, so we are not going ahead with that. The second one is private ownership and control issues. The third one is ethics and strategy concerns in space politics. The third one is sustainable development and economic rejuvenation considerations via artificial intelligence. And the last one is IP recognition and safety policies. Delegates who wish to suggest which to start with. You have 5 agendas. Discuss at least 1 more or 2 more here, so that when we come back at 2 p.m., we can actually discuss at least 2 or 3.
Let's go with the second one.
Okay, let me confirm. Someone is saying sustainable development. Mr. Goffey is saying ethics. So it means third one, ethics and strategy concerns, right? The third one, I believe.
Yeah, but I'm okay also with the environmental issues.
Right. Correct. Mr. Prakhar, you were saying for the second one or the last one?
We can go with the ethics one.
Ethics one.
Yeah.
Okay, so the delegates who wish to table the motion can do it right now. I can repeat the topic for you. Give me 1 minute. So those who wish to discuss sustainable development and economic rejuvenation considerations via AI can table their motion. Firstly, the motions will be taken, then we'll see what we can do. Then ethics and strategy concerns in space politics. We'll take Samar Rajput first, since he had mentioned it on a chat first. So Samar, you can table the motion, and this is the agenda. You have to name the agenda, and then you have to table the motion, and then we'll put it on vote. But obviously, we'll put the other one also on vote. Dev, yes. So your will be the third one in motion. Okay. Someone kindly read this agenda and table the motion. Please do so. Hello, Summer, can you hear me? Okay, mic is not working. Anybody on behalf of Summer can do it, please, if possible.
Okay, motion to move to the next agenda on sustainable development and economic rejuvenation consideration via AI.
Okay, motion is accepted for vote. Those who are in favor, please say aye. Those who are not, please say no. Please say that in the Google Meet chat right now. Thank you. One, two, three is to none. Okay, nice vote. Three is to none. Guys, please vote. Members, you have to vote. It is necessary. All of the members have to vote. Only three people have voted. I remind sub-agenda for discussion is sustainable development and economic rejuvenation considerations via artificial intelligence. Those who are in favor, please vote aye. Those who are not, please say no's. Okay, 4 ayes is to 0. 5 ayes is to 0. 6, 7, 8. Wonderful. The motion is successfully passing, I believe. Motion successfully passes. 8 is to 0. Let us discuss the other motions also, and then we'll go on the first order. So, on the order of first, on the point of the, I think on the order of disruption, the first one is accepted, which is by Mr. Samar Rajput, which is on sustainable development and economic rejuvenation. Anyways, which is done. Now let's have motion number two. Motion number two will be taken by either Mr. Goffey or either Mr. Brakhar because both of them are suggested ethics and strategy. So please table the motion.
Motion to address the ethics and strategy concerns.
Great. The motion is accepted for vote. Those who are in favor, please vote aye. Those who are not, please say vote no's. Please do it. Thank you. Obviously, the first sub-agenda will be one someone has already approved it through vote, but we need to get it done. So, okay, 2 ayes does not qualify. Still, members, please vote. 3 ayes is to 0. 4 ayes is to 0. Okay, members, please vote. 5 ayes is to 0. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 ayes. Oh, it's getting majority now. So much. I think it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 ayes. Anybody who's left? I believe. Time, please vote. You have to vote. It is mandatory. Please vote. Whether you would like to discuss ethics and strategy issues with regards to the same, please vote aye or no's. Please do. 7 is to 0. Crosses majority. Okay. 8 is to 0. Majority achieved. All the delegates will be discussing this after sustainable development. Okay, the last one which they've suggested. So Dave, please table your motion ASAP so that we can get it voted so that we can discuss it further. Obviously, we'll get with the first one. So please table your motion, Dave. Thank you. Dave, please table your motion to discuss your sub-agenda. The same that you had suggested. Please do.
Okay, am I audible?
Perfectly audible. Go ahead.
Yeah, the sub agenda that I would like to propose is the private ownership and control issues.
Private ownership and control issues with regards to agenda 2, which is agenda 2.3 or 2.4. 2.4. 2.4. No, I think it's 2.2.
Okay, private ownership and control issues.
Correct. Those who are in favor, please. Yes, the motion is accepted for vote. Those who are in favor, please vote aye. Those who are not in favor, please vote no's. Thank you. Okay, aye. 2 is to 0, not majority. 3 is to 0, 4 is to 0. This will get passed. 5 is to 0. Please vote. 6 is to 0, 7 is to 0, 8 is to 0. Okay, then great. The motion passes. All the motions have been successfully passed. So as far as the orders are concerned, order of voting, Let's discuss the first of them approved, which is by Samar Singh Rajput. So let's go ahead. Dave, you have 5 minutes for the same. I will repeat what is to be discussed. So, because we have actually three motions passed on, we need to. Sustainable development and economic rejuvenation consideration by AI. Dave, you can go ahead. You have 5 minutes. Thank you. Sure, we can shift it. Mr. Goffey, would you like to be the first speaker?
Yes, actually, I have no statement on that.
Okay. Okay, so I need to understand. Um, okay. May I take you the third? Like, if you have any convenience issues, or like, you can go ahead with it. Okay. So what we can do is, let us start with Kashvi, then I'll come to you, and then I'll come to Dev. That let's do in that way. So okay, actually, because it was, I think it was not audible, so I was not able to understand. But if anyways, if there's any inconvenience, we can handle that. Kashvi, you're the first speaker. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So, when we talk about sustainable development and economic rejuvenation, so we have to find a balance of a balanced requirement wherein the general interests of the public at large and the specific interests of the private players that will be involved in this play, in this business, and even the specific interests of the nations are something that are catered to. And this concept of sustainable development is more pertinent in now because of the rising environmental concerns, the rising concerns with the use of space. So like the Outer Space Treaty, under Chapter 9, it says that you should prevent harmful contamination of anything that goes to the earth by doing anything that you want to, explore in the space. But now it has come to that it's not only a destruction of anything to the earth or harming the earth, but something that would lead to exploitation of there are practices that are leading to exploitation of space more and more today with the private entities entering this space. And this is something that the treaty fails to cover. And this is one of the loopholes that we can say with the growing technological age we will require to have certain new guidelines, certain new rules that cover such lacunae. Okay, so a lot that one of the issues that are there with sustainable development is when we come to space is space debris. So space debris is an issue which is being discussed a lot because of the major fact that a lot of if private entities do enter this space, they will not really consider, like now that states themselves are into destructing satellites, or there are practices that are being mandated of destructing satellites near the graveyards, but this leads to a lot of extra expenses. So now when we say that private entities will enter this space, how do we ensure that these requirements are met? Because this is something that is very pertinent for us. Now, under the Outer Space Treaty, as the rule specifies, the entire international responsibility lies on the states for state entities as well as for non-state entities. This is something which is an additional responsibility in international law, because otherwise, under international law, the state has a responsibility for actions that are only directly done by them. But in this case, even if the activity is done by a non-state entity, say a private entity, but it is not something that the state was aware of or the state controlled, it would still be liable for the private entity's actions. This is where the problem would arise, and this is where private entities could take this loophole and actually not adhere to these sustainable development requirements. Having said that, these autonomous systems that have been used are definitely something that can help us achieve this goal as well. As we've seen that in 2018 the NASA satellites were used for for forecasting a cholera in Yemen, and it had a 92% accuracy rate. And this is only one of the examples. There have been earth observations date for key components of seeing that countries like India and Bangladesh, when they had cyclone risks, it was due to these geosatellites that we were able to evacuate more than 1 million people. So these are practices that have definitely helped the states as well, and we need it. This is also like we need it for promoting sustainable development. So how can we go about this? So definitely there's a requirement that is needed for differential liability. So differential liability in the sense it is a principle in international law that in which developing countries are favored to integrate them into the process. So everyone does not have the same liability. They have to obviously adhere to best practices, but only to the level that their economic costs can take, because definitely a developing country would not have the same infrastructure as a developed country to carry on those practices. Secondly, sharing of information. This is something that has been done at a global level of sharing of information. But how do you share information when you deal with private entities? So that is an obvious thing that commercial information has to be dealt with commercial logic, and something that is environmental information or fundamental information to these activities is something that we need a global data sharing regime in that case. But this again, there's a problem in it, because anything that is related to your military information or your state's critical information, this will not be shared. And a lot of information in this way can be hidden away. So we do not know the efficiency of such a sharing mechanism, but only with an information sharing mechanism can these goals be met, because this is for the public larger good, for these environmental best practices, and to actually have this to get somewhere. Secondly, another problem in the current space law regime being the liability convention, one of the other conventions that is followed. So in there is no proper dispute settlement mechanism for private entities to be not have it. The liability convention just says if negotiation fails, then it will be taken under the claims commission, which is a rather weak provision to have. If private entities are something that need to be governed through these through this regime, then it will require a more stronger practice, maybe like the rescue agreement says, like mediation and negotiation facilities, even among states, so that there is a more there's a better relation among the states, as well as this would amount to a more efficient solution where your environmental goals, as well as there are not a lot of economic costs that adhere with the same. So yeah, that would be my approach on this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kashmi. If there are any points of information to Kashmi, please go ahead. Okay, so there are no such points of information in that scenario. Let's go ahead. To ask if he is ready, or Mr. Goffey, if he feels he wishes to address for 5 minutes. You can please let me know in chat if that's possible. If it's not possible, then we can definitely uh, see that. Yes.
Okay, once again, I don't have any kind of relevant statement on the subject matter.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You don't have any relevant statement. No issues. Accepted. So in that scenario, you can excuse yourself from discussing in this agenda. No issues with it. Thank you so much. Dave, do you wish to? You have 5 minutes. You wish
Yes.
to? Yeah.
Am I audible?
Now it is perfectly audible. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So the emergence of artificial intelligence and its progressively wider impact on a number of sectors requires an assessment of its effect on the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the fast development of AI needs to be supported by the necessary regulatory insights and the oversights which could be based on AI technologies, and this could enable various countries, for sustainable development. A failure to do so could result in a number of transparency gaps, safety issues, and the emergence of ethical issues and ethical standards. Now, the emergence of artificial intelligence is shaping a number of sectors. For instance, AI is expected to affect global productivity, equality, inclusion, environmental outcomes, and several other areas, which could both include the short term process and the long term process. Now, space science, technologies, and data have the potential to contribute in direct or indirect ways to achieving all of these goals. Space science is something which can be incorporated in a number of scientific disciplines, which could involve carrying out space exploration activities and delving into the study of the natural phenomena, and also into the physical and also looking into the physical bodies in the outer space. And this could often include a number of other disciplines such as astronomy, aeronautical sciences, aerospace engineering, space medicines, astrobiology. Now, space technologies often refer or can be referred to as Earth satellite observations, satellite communications, and satellite positioning. Now, technologies such as for which are required for weather forecasting, or let's say involving remote sensing, global positioning systems, and satellite television and communication systems, all of these, as well as the other scientific fields such as astronomy and earth sciences, all of these rely solely, or not solely, let's say majoritively, towards space science and technologies. Now, space technologies can be very vital in agricultural innovation, modern agriculture, and the use of space technologies for farming and natural resources management can be limited to developed countries because of the high cost involved. However, in the recent years, open access to geospatial data products and services, and the lower costs of geospatial information technology facilities, which have stimulated the adoption of space technologies worldwide, particularly in developing countries, through initiatives such as the Open Data Queue. Now, space enabled agricultural products and services will have the ability to support national agricultural ministries and departments, international organizations, and the farmers. Now, I would like to cite an example here. The World Meteorological Organization, that is the WMO, through its agricultural meteorology program, provides services with regards to the weather and drought forecasting to farmers, herders, and fishers, and enables them to promote sustainable agricultural development, thereby increasing their agricultural productivity and contributing to food and security. In addition to this, I would like to cite one more example which I came across. That is the HASIS 2 Precision Farming initiative, which has been taken place in Turkey. Now, this produces fertilization maps and applications which disseminates satellite images and analysis data. And this data is transferred to farmers over the internet. In the recent years, space based technologies have played a very vital role in furthering global health objectives, including Earth observation, remote sensing, telecommunication, positioning, tracking, and space based research, plays a very crucial role in supporting the decision making and the improved care and education and early warning measures. Now, as of now, I have focused upon how agriculture could benefit with the sustainable development and the rejuvenation of AI. However, in the recent years, space based technologies have also played a very vital role in furthering health objectives. So, space science, technology, including Earth observation, have been able to monitor disease patterns, thereby understanding the environmental triggers which could lead to the spread of a disease, or predict the risk areas and define the regions that require disease control planning. Now, I came across a data from NASA, wherein satellites were used for cholera forecasting in Yemen, and the accuracy of this was 92%. So this just shows how sustainable development, how space activities, if they are regulated properly, can lead to a lot of development. Space can be deemed to be regarded as an industry which is booming. However, in India at present, space sector is not quite emerging, uh, uh, because our judiciary has not made a robust or a comprehensive piece of legislation which would govern the activities. So, ISRO is the only organization which has done a fabulous job in regulating space activities. However, private players too need to enter, and then I believe the rejuvenation of AI and space sector in other fields like health, agriculture, disaster management, humanitarian crisis prevention, natural resources, environmental management could be actually effectuated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now go ahead with Mr. Prakhar. Mr. Prakhar, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I would be going ahead with the topic sustainable development and economic rejuvenation consideration via AI. As already discussed by Dave, he has given lots of examples where AI can be very useful for humanity. And Shavi has pointed out the ninth Sustainable Development Goal. So I would delve more upon the Sustainable Development Goal, 17 goals given by UN. As far as I can see, AI could be applicable in each and every developmental goals, and it will make the application of efforts very much synchronized and effective. For example, the first three goals are related to reducing poverty, reducing hunger, and good health and well-being. Further, the few other goals are affordable and clean energy, requirements of clean water, and the 13th goal is climate action. So all these are interrelated, and all these the satellites that we are sending, the huge amount of data which is beyond comprehension of human being, they are being comprehended by AI, and useful outcomes are being given according to which the policies can be made, and the efforts could be streamlined. Similarly, in the field of quality education, SDG 4, and in the field of gender equality and decent work and economic growth. Recently, in the time during COVID, the application of AI has further enhanced in these particular fields. AI has all the information. It has enormous data, and the most important thing is how do we analyze data, because AI is objective, unlike the human beings, which may be unlike the views of humans, which may be biased towards maybe the powerful countries, the Western economies. They may be biased against the poorer economies, and they might frame policies on the basis of their interest. But the AI is transparent, the AI is objective, and therefore it will give a true picture of what is going on across the globe. And during COVID as well, it has helped a lot in online education, providing quality education, because with the help of AI, one can the level of the students or the one who the learners can be gauged, and accordingly the further modules can be created. All these can be done to through AI, which can give a customized information to a particular person. And this way it can be beneficial for enhancing in providing curriculum on the basis of the understandability of a person. Similarly, moving ahead, the 16th and 17th goal talks about peace, justice, and a strong institution and partnership for the goals. So AI is there, and AI has the information, and it will be very much uh, placed in a better position to aid and advise the government institution, and government must uh, coordinate with the big tech companies which has the data to formulate the policies. We have been talking about delinking private from the public, or maybe to give less weightage to private institutions, maybe to give a less important role, and keeping the most important and decisive role for the public institutions, like decision making power and policy decision. But then the policies that needs to be framed by the governments needs data, and this can only be done in collaboration with the private tech companies which has the access to artificial intelligence. Further, as far as space is concerned, earlier we were sending human beings to space, but then now we have robots, we have artificial intelligence. Let me introduce the three broader categories of artificial intelligence. First one is artificial narrow intelligence, which is trained to give decision in one sphere, like Google search. The another is artificial general intelligence, the human level intelligence, which might be said to be used in autonomous car. And the third being artificial super intelligence, which can be super creative, super smart, a robot behaving in the like a real animal and assisting the human being. So these three categories of artificial intelligence can be applicable at a large scale. And similarly, as I was talking about sending robots to space, so earlier the requirements to send humans was very costly. But then if the work is done by sending robots, it can become very cheap. And therefore, similarly, just one more example for the example of Arogya Setu app, in which there was huge amount of data of human being who are interacting, and through that the government is able to determine which spot to concentrate on while providing the reliefs, or to get the testings done and to identify the clusters. And these way, for in and every sphere, these for AI is will be very useful for sustainable development and economic rejuvenation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Mr. Prantik here. Prantik, you have 5 minutes for your speech. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. With regard to the sustainable development and the economic rejuvenation, AI actually plays a very vital role in it. I mean, in the recent past, we have even I guess a few months back, I happened to read an article where it was mentioned that earlier it used to happen that the launch vehicle of a space of a spacecraft used to get disposed of, and the only the and the, only the only the main spacecraft is to land after the mission has been completed. So what is Elon Musk and his SpaceX team did, in spite of disposing of that launch vehicle, what they did, they came with a plan where they integrated an AI tracking device, in which because of which the launch vehicle will track the launch pad, and it will automatically land after it has successfully launched the spacecraft into the space. So these are some of the sustainable development thing which is doing, which the AI is happening to do. I mean, because of the disposing of the launch vehicle and all, it was seen that environment pollution was a very big issue. Second of all, wastage of resources was a thing, and which actually I guess the more technologically advanced we are becoming, and I guess we have more sustainable we are actually sustainable and cost effective in same sphere we are becoming. So what we have to do is AI is actually since I've yesterday I've also mentioned about the AI general intelligence thing and all. So even the seconding to Mr. Prakar's opinions and all. So artificial general intelligence is happening to bring a great revolution in the space technology too. So what what we can see and perceive right now is like uh, from space weaponization to to mining launching mining robots in launching mining robots in at asteroids. The all the activities are being administered by AI, only what we humans are doing. We are just inputting the algorithms there, and the robots are and the robots are due to the self learning feature. They are automatically learning the aspect, and they are doing the task. So it's actually saving a lot of resources, and we are actually exploring the unexplored also. So what we are doing is what we are doing actually is we are utilizing, we are actually with the humans and artificial intelligence are going hand in hand, and because of that, today we are also thinking of going to we are going going to Mars and test our robots there. Even like I guess last week I read about this like India is considering of launching a robot in a humanoid robot in Mars. So actually because of AI we are kind of we have explored a lot, and I guess we are bringing up sustainable development along with that. Even many space agencies have installed AI install AI into the space stations to monitor any heat of space debris or any wastage of resources in the space, or creation of further space debris further space debris. And even in the future, that the even the future in future, ISRO and NASA is also planning to planning to in, like installing 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 trash cleaners in space, which will actually collect those debris which are around the satellites, and it will actually prevent from damage of the telecommunication infrastructure in the space. So this is my point. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have Mr. Samar Rajput, but before that, if there are any points of information for Prantik's speech, please do. No points of information? Okay, thank you so much. Samar, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead. And you're audible
Yes.
as well. Yes.
Okay. So, like AI has helped altogether, as the previous speaker stated, that it has helped in connecting to the remote areas, and so in the recent assembly of AI for all conducted by Mr. Narendra Modi, I guess. So in it states that there should be smart cities. So AI would be very helpful in developing the smart cities, but we have to look at the environmental issues as well. This smart cities idea would not hinder the environment as well. Similarly, in the space, if there are satellites which were revolving around the Earth orbit, which is actually giving the data regarding the weather conditions and the different aspects of climate change around the world. But we have to also look at whether these satellites are there in very large quantity revolving around the space orbit. Will it hindering the uh, space around that orbit or not? And is there a perfect regulation for disposing of these satellites? Because the satellites might, because these AI machines, they might have a certain age limit, because they like 5 or 6 years or more than 10 or 20 years after they will like self destruct. There might be some protocol. So my question is, or rather a concern is regarding this issue. What is how do we dispose of these particular machines? Because I understand these AI machines are very helpful to us, and it makes as they are not human equipped, so it will help us and they will reach the space where human cannot reach. But is there a particular mechanism in Indian space laws or in the global space laws where the mechanism where these machines should be disposed of accordingly? Like, is there a proper mechanism which exists? We have to look into that as well, because if suppose there's a satellite which is revolving around Earth for like 15 years, now due to some malfunction or after a self destruct, it will fall into the ocean. Now it will affect the ocean body, the ocean, the animals and the mammals which are living in the oceans. So I understand AI will is helpful. Now there's another point, like AI, like I think Dave has suggested regarding that in the Yemen, the AI has actually diagnosed what was that exactly? Like it was regarding the disease, right? If I'm correct, Dave. Hello.
Yes, Samar, yes, correct. It was about the health issues. It could detect cholera.
Yeah. Okay. So now there's another point of concern regarding biased AI. So what if there's an algorithm in the AI which has been only to give the positive result? So we have to also look at this aspect that okay, we are building it in with the goal of sustainable development, but the algorithm which we have set in that particular machine is in the aspect of giving us a positive result rather than just not giving us the whole scenario, just giving it the side of a picture, not the whole picture. We have to also look at that aspect as well, that the result, that the data which has been traced by that particular AI machine is correct data or not, or is it a biased data, or is it overall data. We have to look at that aspect as well, that is it only for the biased result or a positive result only, or we have to look at so basically we have to look at the look at the data, how it has to be, the algorithm which has been making of that particular data. So we have to look at this aspect as well while looking for a sustainable development in order to fulfill its purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any point of information to Samar? Anybody? Okay, wonderful. Now we go ahead with Shruti.
Yes.
Shruti, yes, anybody? Yes, yes, Mr. Pepper. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to add something here. There was a research conducted in US, I think, where the restaurants were asked to fill a form, which was to determine how much, like if a black person comes to the restaurant, will they be treating them well or not? How would they be treated? And the forms that they filled signified the bias against the black people. But the next step of the research was what happened when actually the black people went to those restaurants, and it was seen that those people were treated quite well, and the difference between the filling of the form, the general perception of the restaurant's owner, and the behavior and their behavior when a black person went there, those were different. And and here the AI system will similarly use the data. If it uses the data from the algorithm, uh, or the data it takes, it may show the biasness against a particular person if it takes from the mental perception from the other people. But if it takes the data from actually what is happening, the result might be different. So the source of data, as the previous delegate mentioned, is also very important. And whether to keep the human angle or to eliminate the human angle will be decided, and it will be a crucial thing to do. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Shruti, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah. Hello. So, artificial intelligence has undoubtedly transformed many areas of our daily lives, from healthcare to transport. Tasks usually carried out by humans are now being performed by the computers or robots more quickly and efficiently. What's more is like AI is adapting. It's now bringing us closer and closer to the stars with numerous benefits. Now, let's imagine a world where breakthrough technologies and the most advanced innovations are used to keep people safe, protect forest, and help communities in crisis. AI for sustainable development would be an interesting topic to look upon. New method that employ machine learning and artificial intelligence to make effective use of incredible like volume of available data from satellite images, and the growing universe of other available sensors enable us to make giant strides toward achieving peace and prosperity of people and the planet. It was also laid down in the Sustainable Development Goals by UN in 2015, if I'm not wrong. Satellite image, image, imagery in conjunction with AI can be used to monitor a number of different places from urban to hazardous areas. This can help improve urban planning, finding the best place for development. It can also help discover new routes, allowing us to get around more quickly and efficiently. Satellites can also observe areas of interest such as deforestation. Now, data collected by these technologies can help the researchers in monitor and look after them. As as well as this, satellite can be deployed to monitor hazardous environments such as nuclear sites without the need of people having to enter. Now, data collected by space technology and processed by AI machine is fed back to the industries that require it, uh, allowing them to proceed accordingly. It would be proved to be beneficial in maintaining transparency in supply chain through its forest conservation policy, which was announced in 2013. Asia Pulp and Paper, which is also APP, committed to ensure that no natural forest would be cleared in the production of its product. It is not easy promise to keep, but given that APP source from a number of pulpwood suppliers, uh, would whose concessions include more than like around 6 lakh hectares within conservation forest areas across Indonesia. By monitoring forest loss in near real time, APP's pulpwood supplier can respond rapidly to detect the forest changes in the production and the conservation area. Now, this has proved particularly helpful in spotting and responding to the changes which is hard to reach forested area, which is not possible on a normal ground by human, like we humans. Since the monitoring service was introduced, APP reported that loss of the natural forest cover have dropped significantly in the conservation areas within forest consension managed by APP suppliers. Now, Earth observation satellites can detect changes in the land cover, monitor water quality, identify pollutants, evaluate the health of a reef, and also assess how coastal zones are influenced by the sea level rise. With the advent of the cloud computing and AI, these satellites are analyzing data on a daily basis. Whereas previously it took an imagery analyst to meaningfully interpret the information, machines are unlocking insight at unprecedented scale, enabling much more complex research and pinpointing the data. The technological advances such as machine learning combined with big data after astounding possibilities for improving life. Sharing data and analytical techniques to use data will alter how we identify to and respond to the natural disasters, epidemics, and the need of 1.3 people living in the extreme poverty. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Taing, you are the last speaker. You have 5 minutes, but before that, if there is any point of information to Shruti, please go ahead. Anybody? Okay, thank you so much. Taing, yeah, the last speaker, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, in sustainable development, many delegates pointed out the various issues which will be good for sustainable driven AI. So, in the light of artificial intelligence and its progressive wider impact on the sector across, the society requires an assessment of its effect on sustainable development. With AI is shaping an increased range of sectors. For instance, AI is expected to affect global productivities, equality and inclusions, environmental outcomes, and several other areas, but in the short and long term. So I will talk about environment environmental outcomes. So basically, we are in such place that Earth is suffering for in climate change, global warming. So in terms of that, the AI will help in future for to protect the climate change and global warming in the world. So, for example, Elon Musk is taking a taking a work for progressive work, which is the unusual stuff which are using in Earth, which garbage are in they place into garbage. So the garbage will be Elon Musk is taking the will be take into the space and it will be in there in space. So basically, what will happen if the all unusable stuff, non-recyclable stuff will be placed in Earth? Then it will be effect in the go in the effect on climate change also. So basically, this will be this will be effect will be good in this for the future for climate change, which will be eradicate the changes of climate. So this progressive work that Elon Musk are taking the work, so it will be very good for the society as well as for living person to stay in the earth. So to protect the living human being also. So this step is very good for climate change. So I would like to this is my only point. I will recommend this. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted. I would like to ask the president before we go on for a break for his statements.
Uh, Abhi, I would like to give it a pass because I've heard too many good points, and I'll need to sort of spend some time and come up with something. So for now, I would just like to give it a pass and take it for the next steps.
Sure. I have a request to all the delegates. Please have a look at the chat. I've already shared the link to the same. You have to go to the document and write on each of the agendas. This agenda has been discussed in a fulfilling manner. So I know that someone wishes to discuss something. Yes, someone?
Actually, I want to raise a sub agenda on one of the topics, like the recent topic, if I had any.
I could not understand. You wish to raise a motion to table a sub agenda.
Yeah, under this agenda which we are discussing right now, like specifically.
Express the same and table the motion.
Hello. Yes.
Yes, yes. Please express the motion. Yes, please express the motion. Yeah.
I want to understand the view of the delegates on the biased AI in case of sustainable development, how it will hinder the sustainable development. If that's it.
Okay. With regards to the motion, Kshitij, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So count the votes. Those who are in favor of the motion tabled by Mr. Samar, please vote aye on the Google chat. Those who are not in favor, please say no. Please vote no. Please do it as soon as possible on the Google chat. And please, Kshitij, have a look. I would request all the delegates to at least vote for the same. If you're not interested to discuss this, it's perfectly fine, but please at least vote ayes or noes on this, please. Thank you. I still believe some of you have not voted.
I
Please,
6-0.
5-0, it's not enough. I think some of the people have not voted yet. That's why I'm asking. Please vote. Because leaving us three, the president and the session consultants, still there are 9 people.
I 7-0.
Okay, majority passes, but still we need 2 votes. 2 more people have not voted yet. Please vote. No votes? Okay, sir.
All right.
All right, the motion passes. However, we have to consider the order of the agenda, which means that it will be discussed afterwards. We have the second one, which we have to do first. That's actually the order of disruption. So, first one is yes, we have discussed sustainable development. Now we will discuss the second one, I think, which was proposed by Mr. Loki, right? I think which was on ethics and strategy. So we have to discuss that first, and then we'll go on the next one by one. So yours will be the last one this time. But we will discuss that for sure. Maybe in public meeting 4 we will discuss, but we will discuss. The motion has been passed, therefore the discussion has to happen. Okay? So we will discuss this, don't worry. Or there is another option. Any delegate can pass a motion to prioritize discussion and reshuffling the order of discussion if they wish to. That can also happen if a delegate wishes to. So, someone would like to table this motion, reshuffling it and prioritizing discussion of your sub-agenda, the proposed sub-agenda, and then we should go ahead with the ethics and strategy and what they wish to discuss. Or we can go ahead with ethics and strategy as in general. I'm actually talking about the rules, that's why it may seem weird, but so please. Okay, delegates, we need a response on this. I would like to ask Mr. President what to do. Should we discuss ethics and strategy? Because in the order we should do it like that. That's why.
President is gone.
So, someone would you like to move the motion? Order already decided. Prakhar is suggesting. Yes, sir. You would like to table the motion. Yeah.
I think we should take a vote on this.
Okay, let's take a vote on this. Motion on prioritizing discussion on AI bias and sustainable development as one of the newly added sub-agendas. Actually, it would be within the sustainable development, but still it is considered as a sub-agenda, so we can say a subtopic within a topic within a sub-agenda. But anyways, it's a suggested topic, so we can take it. So to discuss the same, the votes must happen. The motion is accepted for the purpose of voting. Those who are in favor, please vote ayes. Those who are not in favor, please vote noes. Please do it as soon as possible. We have 9 delegates, 9 votes must be registered. Shubhaj, please have a look.
So it's 6-0 so far. I
How many
Starting, we have a
islands?
majority.
You have a majority. Okay. Three, six to eight. It's 8:0. One has not voted. Consider every majority passed. However, vote should have happened. So it's not a tension. Anyways, so it is 8:0. Motion is passed. Some agenda subtopic has been prioritized. Welcome. So we are going to discuss the issue of AI bias in sustainable development. Well, actually, it's interesting, but it's a very limited issue in the sense that if you're connecting AI bias, then obviously it's a field of its own, algorithmic bias or bias in artificial intelligence, because there are different kingdoms or species of artificial intelligence. But if you go into sustainable development, then it means you're limiting it to certain environmental considerations. However, it's a very interesting and very pertinent issue at the same time. Therefore, I would like to request Dave to start with. You have 5 minutes. Any questions on the same, Dave? Yeah. Or if you wish to start afterwards, what do you think? Second, as you wish to. What do you think, Dave? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I don't have any views in particular with regards to this.
Oh, okay.
And
So you don't wish to speak? No issues. Mr. Goffey,
yeah,
you have 5 minutes from now, and you can now begin. Thank you so much.
Okay, can you just remind me what's the subject? Are we moving to the ethical issues, or are we still on the sustainable things?
Okay. So it will be specific to. It is a specific issue on biases of AI, and
Mhm.
sustainable development, which is actually a very subtopic. So after this, we will discuss the ethical strategies of AI because the vote has now happened.
Yeah,
So
about sustainability. Obviously, once again, I don't have any kind of relevant statement. I don't want to talk just for the sake of talking.
oh, okay, no issues. Thank you so much. Kashmi, do you wish to go ahead for a statement?
I would actually like if Mr. Samad could give us like a context. So then, if I have something to say, so after
Oh,
that.
okay. The delegate proposed for the motion who got it passed. Please actually propose why we should discuss this. And then, if it is necessary, then the only delegates who are interested can discuss. Yes.
Okay, so AI has helped us in developing the nation for the good, like sustainable development for 2030 goals, where we should have smart cities and like resources which will be helpful. But the thing is, these uh, the data which has been provided by the AI, will it be in the interest of particular person, or because if there's such algorithm which has been put in the place where it has to show the you know bright side of it but not the dark side of it, that yes, the buildings and the smart cities will help in growing a city altogether to a betterment or better future. But what if that data did not show the if there are like if AI data supports that the industry should be needed in this particular area to set up for the economical boost, but it is not showing that how it is harming the environment. So to what extent this kind of AI goals will meet up with a sustainable development, because it is only proposing one side of it but not actually looking at the altogether whole picture. So that is what like my view on this particular point. If anyone has any doubt with it, they can ask.
Okay. In that case, okay, Kashmi, what do you think about this? Would you like
So
to discuss this?
yeah, I just have a very short opinion on it. That basically there can be two cases in such a bias which occur. That firstly, it can be an a bias which is occurring because of limitations in data. So if there's a limitation in data, it is an error which is inevitable because it's not show because of a lack of accuracy. And secondly, it could be a problem because of actual like how someone has also elaborated of actual profit intentions taking over. That in the case of if private entities were to do such a thing, and if they had to develop something that they are portraying for public opinion to be sustainable, but actually it is only catering to their private interests, then this how do we maintain the algorithmic accountability in this case? So how are nations going to take that step up? So this, according to me, needs to be a step that has to be taken by the nations to kind of govern, because if private entities or if states are going to take such a step, there has to be a like the precautionary principle needs to apply here, and they have to have proper like assessments of these algorithms, that will be there, a proper accountability structure, that these algorithms firstly are based on the required data, have a diverse data. Secondly, like reasoned out and well verified reports that are backed up by expert opinions, that this will not lead to any bias, it will not lead to harm of the environment, rather than promoting and sustainable development of the environment. So all these like checks will be something that would be very important for it to maintain. And also because it's at the end of the day, such responsibility would still fall on the states to maintain such development, even if private entities do falter. So to regulate private entities and not let profit intentions, or even if it's not profit intentions but regular like bias that is occurring due to lack of data, there has to be steps of like coordination amongst the states, and specific like rules and guidelines that need to be maintained so that such algorithms are like up to date. Yeah,
Right. We can say in that sense that as a system consultant, I would like to add very much. So we can say in this issue that corporatism should not triumph so much that the economic models are unreasonable and artificially intrusive, in the sense that when you apply AI and you are actually affecting the geological and I would say aesthetic plus cultural, because culture and geography are very connected in different countries. It depends. One interesting example is why industrialization happened in the 1750s in Britain. Well, that's the reason. There's a very interesting work on this by Professor Ian Morris. You can go ahead with this. So yes, that is one very important aspect which why sustainable development is important. I think one aspect which could have been discussed in this, I don't know how will the next delegates or further delegates will take it, but one aspect which I suggest, because I believe that we are actually getting to the tipping point of this, is that when you discuss these issues, please ensure that first economic rejuvenation is important. Economic empowerment is very important for society. However, economic empowerment must be based on better principles and not corporatism, because corporatism means something different. So the whole purpose of privatization for individuals is defeated, and actually it goes too much to companies. So it's like the same thing which is happening, that you can't have global commons all the time, but yes, it is necessary at the same time. So balancing privatization and global commons, both are necessary, both are reasonable, and in that sense, I think it works. Yes, I think some examples like Antarctica and all of them in the space issues have been given, because we are discussing space conflicts. So I think that is nice. But let's see. Much views will be appreciated. But yes, privatization and global commons both can work hand to hand. Point is how much balance is not just maintained by principle but also in practice, because in practice it actually does not work out. We know about commercial interest and the problems in it. So let's get on next aspects to it. So anybody else who wishes to discuss this? Because now this is something which I've kept open, considering the fact that it's just a very subtopic out of it. Prantik, would you like to discuss it? It's up to you if you should discuss this sub agenda. Okay.
So are you talking about the like the AI bias thing, right?
Yeah, AI bias in SDGs. If you wish to discuss, it is up to you. This one is not binding because we are considering that Mr. Goffey said that he would not be wishing to. Then Mr. Dev said that. I thought, okay, fine. If that's the case, then let us keep it non-binding. Only this one, but obviously from the next one we will not. So
I don't have any like many things to say about this thing, but I can put up some points which I guess might help the delegates, and they might come up with their point of their own too. So when we are talking about AI biases, so
Yes.
like AI bias is the thing which I've already talked about before, like the algorithms and the inputs which are being like integrated into the AI, that are being actually inputted by by the human beings. And think and the and nowadays this like AIs are becoming have the self learning capabilities. So whatever they will see in the surrounding, they will adapt to that. And we just seeing actually seeing that biases are actually going on in society, and like uh, and like the and like the society is favoring a particular section of a particular section of people. Then the AI will also act like that only, because it's actually seeing the surrounding and acting like that. So when we're talking about this, let's take a hypothetical situation. If you so when we're talking about sustainable development, so let's take an example that I have built an like a AI vehicle which will actually collect trash from the whole city. Okay, so my purpose of building that AI vehicle was cleaning the city. But suppose like let's see that the AI that vehicle has projected and and has integrated into a system that it is not that the humans are not collecting or there is no waste disposal in a particular area of the city. So what's that AI is doing? It's also actually acting like that only, and it's actually working on a very biased manner. So my point is that reverse engineering of a particular technology is very much important. When you're seeing when we're seeing a flaw of this nature, we have to uh, we have to reverse engineer, and we have to try to correct that flaw too. So there, so this is my like a very basic point which I want to make, and like I don't have much further to say about this.
Thank you so much. So let's now get on things further. Okay, Shruti, it is up to you. Okay, also to Mr. Prakhar. So, Prakhar, would you like to discuss this sub agenda fast?
Yeah, sure. So we are talking about biases of
Go ahead.
artificial intelligence. So we are talking about biases of artificial intelligence and sustainable development. So I could categorize the biases into two kinds. One, the bias that is because of the reality that exists, which comes from the training data that AI gets, and it may be dependent on historic reasons, so social inequalities, racial and gender discrimination, because that actually exists in the society, and that is reflected in the AI. The another bias could be because of algorithmic errors, or maybe the intentions to plant an algorithm which is biased. So maybe this is because not all the variables that needs to be taken are taken, or maybe to get a desired result, the algorithm is tweaked. All these two biases are such kind of bias which is not intended to be there. Another category of bias can be intentional bias in the algorithm, in the artificial intelligence, which will take the intelligence towards a positive development, a bias for a positive development, which may be essential because AI is an objective thing, unlike human, which is very subjective. To bring a subjectivity in AI, a positive bias can be introduced. For example, for gender justice, If a human judge is sitting and he sees the same atrocities on a male and a female, he may be biased in the favor of female to grant her a greater justice. Similarly, is the case with the pornography, the adult pornography and the child pornography. So rules are stringent against child pornography, but the AI might see both as equal. So here, a positive bias needs to be there in AI so that a positive development or positive justice is reached. So somewhere biases are necessary and somewhere it is not, and it all depends on how fair the AI has to be, and the fairness also needs to be defined, and for that debates and discussions need to be there. Moreover, there can be a human loop which may create a more subjective, more just artificial intelligence, and also transparency needs to be there so that the algorithm that is working in the background is accessible to all to judge and to analyze, um, and uh, and moreover to make AI more acceptable and more reliable, and there can be there can be a structure of diverse investment where a huge population or a large spectrum of companies and population is investing in artificial intelligence, and they have a say uh, as to in which direction it needs to go. A multi-stakeholder approach will also be very beneficial. Also, a competitive environment in the field of AI is also very necessary, because if there is a competition, people will come up with a more transparent and more accountable approach towards their AI building. And unlike if there is only one or two big players in the field of AI, they can have the monopoly. So competition also needs to be there. Many players needs to be present in the field of AI so that uh, the biases can be introduced and the negative biases can be excluded, so that a sustainable development could be reached. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shruti, would you like to give a statement?
Hello.
No, sir, I have nothing much to say on this topic.
Okay. Yes, Karthik.
Uh, yeah, I have like a point to add with regard to this thing, AI biasness.
Please do, please do, please do, please do.
Yeah, so I remembered an incident from this AI bias thing. So it happens that like last year I attended a conference on mediation and arbitration. So the speaker happened to say that like US tried to integrate an AI judge into a particular proceeding in to check out that like in future whether AI might work as an alternative to human judges. So what was witnessed is that the AI was particularly like giving judgments against the community as a whole. Like on tier 2 to 3 proceedings, all the proceedings were against the black community. So quickly that AI that the alternative for AI judge got replaced back, and it was very much evident on the part of evident on the part of everyone that AI bias is actually very much relevant. So that was like for me that was the first encounter of a AI biasness, and I guess that's why I'm telling that reverse engineering and criticism of technology is very much important. So until we do that, so there won't be any improvement in regard to that. And if and when in the coming era when artificial super intelligence will be achieved, and the same thing if this same thing persists, AI biases, I guess there will be a huge problem that the whole humankind may face. Like it might happen that the AI that the AIs turn against you human beings and to start like they might start a like a revolution against the human being as a whole. So what I'm telling is that telling is that until unless we bring a regulation or at least until it's a corporate bring up a self-regulation policies, so it might pose a lot of problem in this sector. I mean, this AI biases, and it's actually very much relevant in the society.
Wonderful.
Hello.
Uh,
Just to
yes, sir.
just
Respond.
at the last point. So okay, so AI is a machine which works on the algorithm. Now, like Dave has suggested that in the Yemen they have diagnosed the cholera, right? Now AI is an algorithm. What if so? It is a machine which is work on algorithm. So what if the algorithm malfunction or the machine some function or data system malfunctions, and it will give a data which is not which is inaccurate, right? So that on that data now the scientists have working on a certain medicine or disease. So what I am suggesting is what cost would we pay for such a malfunction, and so we have to look at the regulation of how are we regulating the and how much reliance are we placing on these AI information data for sustainable future. So that is all I have to add
Can I
to it.
add?
Yes.
So as you said that with the AI algorithm and the machine learning, there will be certain errors which would be made.
Yes.
However, what I would like to suggest is while treating an individual, let's say in the medical field,
Okay.
these machines, algorithmic machine learning data and machines won't be replacing these individuals. They would simply aid these individuals, and this is how the autonomous systems work. So autonomous systems and these systems, these algorithmic systems and AI would basically provide aid to to humans. So it technically won't replace humans, but it is essential for the development in the skills of individuals or professionals. Because let's say, let's if you talk about it in the legal field, artificial intelligence softwares are now being developed, which could assess a document and draft the same and send it, thereby reducing the workload upon the lawyer to sit down draft, while
Right.
all you could do is code the software in such a way that all you have to do is simply put the information with regards to what the subject matter is, what the who are the parties to the case, and so basically this provides aid to the lawyers. However, it is not entirely replacing the legal profession, the people in the legal profession. So I agree that there need to be certain laws and proper regimes in place in order to govern these. And I am of the opinion that they would develop slowly, because India is a developing nation, so India has accounted for a lot of development in this field. However, laws need to be developed, and I'm sure with the expansion and with the growth, these laws would surely develop and would specifically enumerate into the use of machine and how these autonomous machines could comprehend and work together with humans and professionals.
Okay. Yeah.
So just one more point, that like with the whole point of how humans working with machines, something also like that has been looking into is these AIs developed in such a way, the algorithms developed in such a way that they, like how Mr. Prakhar said, biases are important in some places. So even if these algorithms are taking into consideration these biases, and they themselves then generate data accordingly, and they start to understand those biases. So basically AI is developed in a way that can understand the human interactions, can understand how the human how these human interactions are. So at least, like, certain because there will be a point where the AI has to even understand these biases to get rid of it. So this is something that could definitely be a solution to a lot of these problems, if obviously the accurate and the needed data is provided for these machines.
Interesting. Time, would you like to speak? It is completely voluntary for this sub agenda.
No, no, it's fine.
Okay, thank you so much. So we have exhausted the time for this, exhausted the session. sorry, not session, actually sub-agenda itself, in the aspect of discussion. I would like to request the president if he wishes to give any remarks. Uh, if not, then what we can do is that we have to get on with the further agendas, but we will discuss them at 2, not now. Also, due to certain special reasons, I will not be available only for a few 10 to 20 minutes during the session, the public meeting 3 from 2 to 3, but not for the whole time, just for 10 minutes due to certain important reasons. So Kshitij will be handling the same, and I will be here, but I will be muted. So only for 10 minutes, please pardon me. But I would like to ask the president if he has some statement, then we'll go ahead for a recess. Yes.
Yeah, very briefly on this unbiased algorithm, my thinking is, it can be a result of biased, of course, algorithm, biased training data, and the lack of diversity. Now, on all these three aspects, we will therefore will have to go uh, into deep uh, in addressing each of these issues, such that whether the diversity of data can be or ensure it is as diverse and increased as possible, which gives us the understanding that the representation of the data is identified, as well as there is a fairness in the AI. The second is to guarantee the quality of results. It is also important that there is enough competition, such that given like how today we have credit checks for an individual. Now there could be two companies doing your credit checks. Now what kind of data do they use in order to come to a fair and equitable manner to see whether the data sets about your credit check, how does it sort of come to the results, how diverse it is, how close it is, and that's important. And last but not the least, for the purposes of testing, if there could be a second check agency which could actually pass the test for you, because again it's important to understand from that perspective that there is something available, and ultimately it is a uh, uh, there has to be some appropriate solution which will have to emerge to a cross disciplinary engagement between the government, AI scientists, social scientists, and public at large to finally come to some common minimum uh, regulations, laws, practices, ultimately to address this issue. Thank you.
My pleasure, Mr. President. So, we need to pass a motion to go for recess for some time, and then the public meeting is adjourned. The next public meeting shall begin at 2 p.m. sharp, obviously. I hope that more delegates will come at that time. Kshitij, please assure, or fully, obviously, you can't assure, but at least assure to connect with the rest of the delegates if they join. Wonderful. Uh, because presence is very necessary, and we need to pass a vote to go for adjournment so that we begin with public meeting 4. Thank you so much. Please do fill that sheet like yesterday you did really well. Please do author that. Your name should be mentioned, who has written it, and you should contribute effectively. So please do it, and you have a good break right now. And we will be, I will be staying here but muted, and the president may leave if he wishes to. Meanwhile, uh, let us first vote and then people can leave. You cannot leave without voting. So let us first vote. I think Mr. Prakhar has left, but anyways. So those who are in favor of the motion, so the president has to lay forward the motion. The president has accepted to go ahead with this.
Yeah,
So
please, let's
the
go
motion
ahead.
is yes. The motion is to adjourn the session and start public meeting number 4 at 2 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Those who are in favor, please vote aye. Those who are not, please say no. Kshitij, please count the votes.
We have 5:0 ayes so far.
All the members have to vote for the motion to adjourn the session and come back at 2 p.m. IST. Therefore, everybody has to vote. Please vote.
6:0 ayes so far. 7, 8.
Okay, we have reached a peak. It's 8:0. One person has not done yet. So it is already a majority. It's a absolute majority in that sense because the rule of present voting has been violated many times. Anyways, so since it is already a majority, the motion is passed successfully. Now the instructions are quite simple. Please do research on this and write in the draft report document. And we see you at 2 p.m. IST. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Kshitij, I would request you to stay. Yes. So did you like it reasonably? What do you think, Kshitij? आपको कैसा
Yeah,
लगा?
like I said yesterday, I mean the people that we have, I mean these are very
Just 1 minute. Sorry for saying I was not able to hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, so it's pretty good. I mean, the kind of discussions they're having are good. I mean, these are well-read people and they're really researching. And I don't know if all of them are students, but then they're researching and then coming back with a good amount of work. So I think it's okay, not a problem.
Yes.
For the first time, I think it is pretty good that they're willing to come online and discuss these issues. So these are people that are really interested in research, and these are people that are really interested in bringing solutions to the table. So that is very nice. So what I was asking you is, now we have only one agenda left, I think, for today's agenda.
No, we have to discuss 3. ये बीच में समर का एक आ गया ना, तो उसके चक्कर में टाइम लग गया, तो अभी 3 बचे. ओके, सो आई विल टेल यू. आपके पास वो शीट है ना, पीडीएफ है ना? या तो सब पे वोट हो चुका है. यस, आईपी रिकग्निशन नहीं हुआ है. 2 एक्चुअली
हाँ,
करने
IP
हैं,
recognition.
लेकिन आईपी में वोट नहीं हुआ है. तो एथिक्स एंड स्ट्रेटेजी पहले डिस्कस होगा, फिर प्राइवेट ओनरशिप होगा. सबको 5 मिनट आप देंगे. आप अपने साइड से स्क्रीन शेयर करेंगे, गूगल पे टाइमर सर्च करिएगा, टाइमर आ जाएगा. 5 मिनट का टाइमर लगा के आप अपना करते रहिएगा. सिर्फ 2 से 3 बजे तक की बात है. मुझे कहीं जाना है, मैं यहीं पे रहूंगा. मतलब लैपटॉप पास में रहेगा, बस है कुछ रिचुअल टाइप का. तो वो जब हो
No
गया,
problem.
बस जैसे ही मैं फ्री हुआ फिर मैं वापस आ जाऊंगा, कोई टेंशन नहीं.
ठीक है, श्योर.
हाँ जी, और ये आखिरी वाले का वोट करना पड़ेगा. आईपी रिकग्निशन कोई बात नहीं कर रहा है. तो आईपी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. आईपी बिल्कुल बात नहीं सही है. ठीक है, आई थिंक दे आर आज बेटर है. देखिए, ये मैटर नहीं करता कि कितने ज्यादा डेलीगेट्स हैं. अगर कम डेलीगेट्स भी अच्छे से डिस्कस कर रहे हैं ना, तो मतलब इवेंट सक्सेसफुल हो गया.
ऑफ कोर्स.
तब तक जरा मैं ये अपडेट्स भेज दूं जरा डेलीगेट्स को, और मुझे कुछ काम है उसी 2 बजे से 3 बजे वाले बीच में. 1 घंटे के लिए नहीं जाऊंगा मैं, बीच बीच में आता जाता रहूंगा. सो इट्स लाइक दैट.
श्योर.
So I will now stop presenting. आप अपने साइड से प्रेजेंट करिए and be ready, और we'll handle this. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.